Remember when they canceled their album because it had a woman on all fours, Stiff the Glove, I think, something like that? Spinal Tap is sort of warriors in terms of fighting cancel culture before that was even a thing. So we love Spinal Tap. We love Spinal Tap.
Turn your speakers up to 11 because it's time for Too Much Effing Perspective, the podcast that asks musicians and entertainers to relive the most Spinal Tap moments that may not have been funny when they happened, but are hilarious in retrospect. I'm your host, Alan Keller, former lead singer of the least heralded Chicago band, The Falling Wallendas.
And I'm your co-host, Alex Hoffman, former tour manager of Bruce Springsteen, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and all of President Trump's favorite artists, as well as a former lead singer of the least heralded Milwaukee band, The Vainglorious.
Thanks for those alternative facts, Alex. And if Spinal Tap moments get funnier over time, we can only pray that's true for the ones dished out by our guest today, President Donald J. Trump.
Of course, we don't have the real president. We have the next closest thing. Comedian JL Cauvin, who has made a career out of lampooning Trump on X and Instagram, as well as on his own Rain on Your Parade podcast.
And JL's impersonation of Trump is by far the best out there. And it's not just because he nails, and I'm saying nails, the man's voice and mannerisms, but it's also because it is super well-informed and sharp.
What Dana Carvey was to George Bush,
Yep.
JL Cauvin, Donald Trump. And I guarantee if you close your eyes while listening to our chat, you'll think that President Trump is here with us today.
But he's not, okay? So don't run away. I assure you that I'd be running with you if that were the case.
Right. So stay where you are, and we will talk with President Donald Trump as channeled through the mind of JL Cauvin. But first, a short break.
Mr. President, welcome to the Too Much Effing Perspective podcast. Thank you for joining us.
It's a great honor to be here. I've heard great things about both of you. I'm kind of sad that your podcast doesn't say the F word. It's sort of censorship, and we're very pro free speech. But I know a lot of the biggest podcast people, they speak very highly of you. So great honor to be here. Thank you.
I know you're really a busy man being president, and of course, there's the golfing. I'm wondering if you have ever seen the movie This Is Spinal Tap.
I have seen it, I think more than once. I've seen it maybe 3 times.
Our program is about Spinal Tap moments when things go wrong. And, you are used to perfection. I mean, you had the perfect call with Zelensky.
Thank you, by the way, for saying that.
You had that perfect call with Secretary of State Raffensperger in Georgia when you wanted to find some votes and overthrow the election.
I don't know if my connection, it sounded like you said overthrow the election. You must have meant restore integrity to the election. I think the connection may have probably on your end because I have very expensive Wi-Fi here.
Who runs your tech? Is it Laura Loomer?
No, she's not as good as the tech. She's sort of like a spiritual guru to me, somebody I just look to for sort of advice and counsel. Now, my tech is run by Pete Hegseth's AA sponsor. He's a very talented person in terms of setting up cell phones and really smart guy. I said to him, are you part Asian because you're so strong on tech? And he said, no, sir, I'm pure white. And I said, okay, I didn't mean it as an insult, but, we understand.
Well, in Spinal Tap, guitarist Nigel Tufnell, he's able to put his amp up to 11. List some of the things of where you've taken America to 11.
I like that question. I would say economically we've gone to 11. We've never seen an economy as strong as this. And I would say we set records in my first term. That was like to 10. So it was, perfect. And in my second term, we're going to 11. That's a perfect sort of Spinal Tap analogy. As a Christian, I don't like to say analogy because it has anal. But I'd say on immigration, we might even go to 12 on immigration. And I don't mean to disrespect Spinal Tap, but we might have to take it to 12. I think we're at 11 already in terms of what ICE is doing and in terms of strong court cases. And I mean, if sending somebody to El Salvador isn't an 11 or a 12, I mean, what the hell is an 11 or a 12?
And you're not worried about the ramifications of sending people abroad without due process?
I think if you want your country to be safe in the current climate of radical left people and drug dealers and all sorts of bad people coming across our border, you have to be willing to go to 11.
Speaking of immigration, Mr. President, you deported hundreds of Venezuelans, men, women, and children to a notorious El Salvadoran prison, claiming that they were gang members, which hadn't been proven, especially in the case of Abrego Garcia. And many of these people had protected status.
And we apologize. We deported a 13-year-old with multiple sclerosis because we misinterpreted MS-13 in that one case. In that one case, it was a misinterpretation, and we apologize. He's still in prison, but we did apologize. And I noticed you left out his first name. You know how I always said Hussein Obama, Barack Hussein Obama? I always wanted to stress the Hussein. You left out Abrego Garcia's first name, which is very important. Kilmore. The guy's name is Kilmore, and you want me to let a guy whose parents named him Kilmore into our beautiful country. You know what a guy named Kilmore is going to do? Well, he's certainly not going to kill less. I will tell you that.
When Spinal Tap was building their Stonehenge prop, Nigel Tufnell got the unit of measurement wrong, writing down the specs in inches rather than feet. You originally said COVID would kill maybe 10, 15 people, when in fact it ultimately killed over 1 million. Was that just a unit of measurement error as well?
Excuse me. When Spinal Tap ordered the Stonehenge set, and it came much smaller than they expected, but they still got what they thought. With coronavirus, I thought it was going to be like a small Stonehenge. It was the reverse. I thought it was going to be a small amount of death. It turned out to be a bigger amount than I thought, but we have 350 million people in this country. We lost 1. That's not even 0.5%. We actually did very well.
That's very Joni Ernst of you. You know, I was also wondering if you got the unit of measurement wrong when you said that there were millions of people at your first inauguration.
No, I assume you were not there. It was probably too cold for the radical left to show up. When I looked out at that crowd, I've seen big crowds. I've seen crowds like you wouldn't believe. And I'm a wrestling Hall of Famer, by the way, so I've seen big crowds. This crowd was so big. I was going conservative when I said 1 million. It might have been 1 billion.
Well, speaking of history, Mr. President, you've interacted with some incredible history makers. We've mentioned a couple on the call already. Vladimir Zelensky is certainly making history. Dr. Fauci was a modern hero and served our country well. Who are some of the other history makers that you've encountered across your career?
I would say Fauci is certainly a person of history. I wouldn't say it's good history. I think some of the great people I've really got to know and who've done great things. Kid Rock, obviously, is somebody who I think is doing tremendous things, a great patriot. Lauren Boebert, I think, is an incredible talent. To go from escort to bar owner to hot grandmother all before 40 is an incredible accomplishment. I'd also say Putin. You can't talk history without talking Putin. Xi. Now, a lot of people might think I'd say Kim Jong-un, who I am good friends with and I have great respect for him, but the guy I miss most is the great Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a tremendous guy, very nice to me, showed me more respect early on when a lot of people were very doubtful. And, he sort of came up with the Trump method, which is kiss my ass very strongly, say nothing bad, and I'll be your friend. And it was a great sadness when he was assassinated because, I wanted to taunt him when I got shot. The first person I went to in my phone when I got shot, I wanted to say, "Ha, Shinzo, guess who was too tough to get assassinated?" And I sent it, and I immediately regretted it because I remembered he was assassinated. He was not as tough as me. And I'm afraid if his wife or his children got that text, they'd think I was being mean. But you ever have that? You forget that the person's dead that you were friends with, and you text them a joke, and then you realize after you send the joke, oh, they're dead. That's too bad. I mean, I'm still right. I was tougher than him because I survived an assassination attempt. But, you just feel bad that your friend was killed and you couldn't taunt them with being tougher than them because they no longer had a cell phone in heaven.
That reminds me of after 9/11, when the Twin Towers fell, how you got on the news and bragged about now having the tallest building in the New York skyline.
I did find some survivors at the site who I did walk up to. I had a mask because I didn't want to get the asbestos, but I just leaned in and they said, "Are you here to help?" And I said, "No, but I just want you to know that my building is now the tallest. Bye-bye." It wasn't bragging. It's just when you state facts. Kid Rock said this on his great album, Cocky, which was like a double meaning because it was like meaning arrogant, but also penisy. So that's why it was cocky. Like the album cover was him sitting down, but it was only his crotch. I thought, this is an artist. Get ready. He's going to get one of those Presidential Medal of Freedoms that we give, like the highest civilian honor. He's getting one. He said on the title track, they call it a title track when it's like the song and the album title. And he said, it's not bragging if you back it up. And I think my building was the tallest in Lower Manhattan. So there's no brag. That was just a statement of fact.
That's interesting you brought up Kid Rock because the rock and roll stars that backed Biden were people like Springsteen and Beyonce and Taylor Swift. Do you think your posse, Kid Rock, Kanye West, Waka Flocka, and Billy Ray Cyrus?
Don't forget Ted Nugent.
And Ted Nugent, right. Do you think they hold up to the star power of the rockers that backed Biden?
If you listen to their songs and the talent, I think we are better.
Would you consider having your own MAGA Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on the new Qatari plane?
We'll call it the Qatar Heroes. And, what we'd probably do is we're planning the Trump Presidential Library in Tampa, Florida, because I'm in Florida. It will be sandwiched in between two of the most popular strip clubs. And I think maybe we will put a section called the Guitar Heroes. And that will be where we put our great right-wing musicians like Elvis and Ted Nugent and other people who've had relations with teenagers.
So Qatar Heroes on one side and then Qatar Force One, the jet, perhaps on the other side?
Perhaps we may have it outside almost. Obama's museum is not going to be fun like this. It's going to be very boring. It's a big building with books and, audio-visual displays, and everybody's going to go very nice and fall asleep. And there won't be any strip clubs near his museum also, which is a real, it's too bad because strip clubs are very nice. And I say that as a Christian.
If you were to put a band together in the White House, who would be in that band and what instruments would they play?
I love that question. That's a good question. They probably want me to do country, but I want to do a rock band. So you got me on lead vocals and guitar. On drums, Stephen Miller, because that guy has just evil energy. They'd just be going, bah, 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 bah. I might even do a little Chicago thing and have a little horn section. And I would put Lauren Boebert, Nancy Mace, and Ivanka on the trumpets, because I'd love to see all three of them blow. And on bass, Elon. He'd probably be excited just playing one note. He'd just get fascinated by it and invent a new machine off of it.
That sounds like a hell of a lineup.
In Spinal Tap, there's some dissension in the band because David St. Hubbin's girlfriend, Janine, comes on tour and starts telling the band members what to do. You've had many women in your life.
Many, many. You got to say it twice. It's been more than just many.
Many, many. I'm wondering what woman in your life, Ivana, could be even Ivanka, Laura Loomer, Stormy Daniels, what woman had the most control over your decisions?
The easy answer is my mother, but then when I turned 8 years old, I said, you don't get to tell me what I can do, bitch. And my father high-fived me for showing the proper amount of respect to a woman, and I never looked back. So I would say my mother from ages 0 to 8.
It's awesome that your mother had so much impact on you. Usually, people who are close to their mothers are fine people.
No, we were close until I turned 8, and then me and my father spent more time together evicting tenants of color.
While campaigning, several times you started dancing to the Village People. I'm wondering, was that a Spinal Tap moment or were you in deep philosophical thought?
I don't like your tone on this one, to be honest. It's not just a dance anymore. It's an iconic dance. And you ever see Sleepy Joe dance? You're not going to see Sleepy Joe walk pretty soon. And I'm up there showing my supporters that I've got the moves, that I'm having fun. And the radical left acted like, oh, the president's having fun. That's what the country wants. The country wants to be happy and have fun. And I was showing them that I will lead them in that happiness and that fun. It's a very popular dance.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Mr. President. Did you know that Spinal Tap has a sequel coming out, Spinal Tap 2? Your second term is sort of your sequel, right? And so I guess my question is, what advice would you have for Spinal Tap in doing their sequel the best they can?
I like that. That's a great question. You've had very nice questions. Your friend over here is sort of crossing the line a little bit, but that's a great question. So you want to sort of have your mission, just like we came in here with Project 2025, which of course I lied a little bit and said, no, I don't know anything about that. That's the entire blueprint is Project 2025. Spinal Tap wants to have their Project 2025. It's called the sequel. So when we watch families being split up, when we deport babies, you got to laugh. You got to have the joy in it. And that's how you have a truly next level sequel.
It also reminds me in Spinal Tap, the band is ready to break up, but then their hit Sex Farm takes off in Japan and the band is back together and they're cooking again, right? What do you think was the Sex Farm moment of your 2024 campaign that propelled you to your landmark victory?
Great question. You're back in my good graces. That's a good question.
Thank you, sir.
It was without a doubt. I give you the one moment. It's not even a song. It's not even a sentence. It's one moment. My big, beautiful, strong mugshot in Georgia. Because America decided they were tired of sleepy Grandpa Joe and they wanted badass Trump back. And I was more badass than I'd ever been. And I've been pretty badass.
Was it pretty badass when they had a picture of you after you got your ear clipped in the alleged assassination attempt?
Oh, I mean, that was the most badass moment. That's a great point. I have so many badass moments. Sex Farm was the moment where the thing turned around. But the moment when it became inevitable was when I was shot in the ear in Butler, Pennsylvania, a very sacred place now, a holy site. We're going to probably build churches there and shrines to me because it's such a holy place.
Is it a badass moment when you said you were going to put 145% tariffs on China and then you met with Xi and he got you down to 30%?
I don't want to ruin China. This was letting them know I dominated you. You talked a big game. You had to come to the table because you were hurting from my strong tariffs. And I'm showing you mercy for 90 days. Congratulations. You're welcome. And now people see both my power and my mercy. Percy. We call it Percy.
Percy.
I'm doing branding right now. It's called Percy. Powerful mercy.
So, Mr. President, at this point, you have about 3.5 more years in office.
Wow, that long? Feels like I've already been doing this for a decade.
Indeed it does. What's retirement look like for you, Mr. President?
Well, we're going to probably do media. I'll go to Mar-a-Lago. We'll probably immediately divorce Mesopotamia, my wife. And I have a nice X-rated version of The Bachelor, but we'll call it The Trumpler. And we'll bring in, women, are you surgically enhanced between the ages of 22 and 29? And would you like to date and marry an 83-year-old billionaire? And then by the time I'm 90, it'll probably be time for wife number 5. So we have a lot of life and a lot of divorce and a lot of strength left in us.
Do you have any words to speak to the American people about the future and what you think of your administration and what you're going to be doing?
America is like the drummers in Spinal Tap. It's going to die. It's going to go through really rough stuff and probably not be too good. But I will make it through. And you should take great comfort in that. That even if America dies like a drummer in Spinal Tap, I will survive for many sequels. And you can take comfort in that very strongly.
Well, we really appreciate your time. And thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, it was a great honor for you, but also for me. You were a little bit nastier than Alex, but overall, I think you were very fair, so thank you.
Thanks to President Donald J. Trump, as channeled by comedian JL Cauvin, for joining us on the show today. Listeners, Have you ever noticed that while conservatives have been influential in media formats like talk radio and, of course, Fox News, it's progressive political commentators and satirists who have ruled in comedy? Think back to Lenny Bruce, George Carlin, and Paul Mooney, and then fast forward to Whoopi Goldberg, Jon Stewart, The Daily Show, Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, and of course our recent guest, Margaret Cho, among many others. It's a unique skill set to land both a joke and a stinging point. And we appreciate JL for dishing up plenty of each in today's episode. All of us at the TMEP Show hope that you feel inspired to find your own way to take action and make your voice heard. Attend a protest, make a donation to an organization whose funding has been cut, write to your elected representative, or simply get back to the fundamentals and love your neighbor. What's important is to stay informed, get engaged, and do something. Too Much Effing Perspective is a Milwaukee Talkies original. Our editor is Gretchen Kilby. Our music composer is J.K. Harrison. Please follow us on Instagram at TMEP Show. Visit our website at tmepshow.com to sign up for our email list, and find our other episodes featuring rock stars, comedians, and entertainment luminaries on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen.
Although it would be as great as having armadillos in our trousers, this podcast is not affiliated with This Is Spinal Tap, and no person or entity connected with the film has sponsored or endorsed its content. The podcast is not affiliated, sponsored, or licensed by Authorized Spinal Tap LLC or Century of Progress Productions.
Evergreen Podcast Network.